guys, welcome back to my channel. So it's Reconciliation Day, which is a new holiday that Canada has added to their stats. So I have school off, which is why I'm filming early. And if you're Canadian, you probably already knew that. But if you're not, yay. And I got distracted. So, because it's Reconciliation Day, I thought that I would talk about something that has happened in all the TV shows I watch. Pretty much the impact of First Nations and Aboriginals. Now, this happens in all my TV shows, not to inject much just because it's fictional. And surprisingly, not Rich Evelyn. I was actually surprised that when I'm like, based on all the topics that they do cover, I was surprised they didn't cover any stuff to do with First Nations, because Little House on the Prairie does. The Waltons do a little bit. Heartland does a little bit too. So they do cover it a bit, but Road definitely doesn't. That surprised me a little bit. So start with Little House on the Prairie. This happens quite a bit throughout Little House on the Prairie. Preferably the whole movie. The first movie starts off with they're near they're near a First Nation camp. I will say the near First Nation camp and that's where they settle. Because it's free land. They can settle wherever they want, just as long as they don't really disturb the First Nations, which they don't. And they do have a couple contacts with them. Twice they come to the house, and then they believe that there was a prairie fire was started by them because they hear drums and war drums in the background. And choking on my own saliva. At the end of the movie, they actually have to leave because the government is turning that land into a reserve for the First Nations, I believe is what happens. And we do see some stuff happen with the First Nations throughout Little House on the Prairie. We do see in the episode Blizzard, where this one guy is hunting a Sioux chief just because he's prejudiced towards him, but in the end he spares his life and lets him go because that guy did nothing wrong. Maybe, I don't remember. He might have actually killed someone, but they let him go. And in the season 4 episode Freedom Flight, when the town kind of turns against a couple First Nations that have returned and are trying to get somewhere so they can heal the chief's father, Charles helps them escape. We see that, and we also see in season 6 of Halloween Dream, which is kind of a funny one, but mostly just Albert reads a Western story about, Indians. I shouldn't be saying that. First Nations versus Cowboys, and he kind of gets himself into it. Oh yeah, there's also Indian Kid. That one, for some reason I'm not allowed to watch that one, but when I'm an adult I'll watch it probably. And that one, pretty much this woman married a First Nation. She had a son with him, and the grandpa doesn't really like the son much because he's half First Nation, and he kind of has this weird relationship with his daughter, partially because of that reason. And he kind of is abusive towards his grandson until his grandson gets hurt. Then he starts to care, but then his grandson, of course, is weird towards him, which appropriate reaction. And of course, Little House on the Prairie covers racism quite a bit. They cover that with quite a few black people that are in this show. They cover with, again, the First Nations, and they do cover anti-Semitism. All the shows except for Heartland and Road to Heaven cover anti-Semitism, the Waltons and the House on the Prairie. Now, the Waltons, it really only is in one episode when a guy, he comes from the reserve with his grandson looking for the ancient burial ground because that's where he wants to be buried, finds out that it's on the Waltons' land in the barn, tells them that they have to burn the barn down, in which then they end up, because technically he is trespassing, they do get him arrested, and the grandson comes to heal the goat, but they think he's burning down the barn again. And soon they resolve the conflict somehow, I don't remember. And then we come to Heartland. So basically, Little House on the Prairie is just when reserves would have started coming and residential schools and all that. The Waltons is in the middle of that, and Heartland is way after that. They're still the reserves, and it kind of shows what life was like on the reserve. Because Scott, who was the vet, lived on the reserve, but now he's a vet, and he was actually a troubled youth and had some trouble with drugs and alcohol, and kind of left the reserve and never came back, and that affected his family and this woman on the reserve, which we see that quite a few times throughout Scott's life. We see through his nephew as well. See how the reserve really affected people, especially I think it's in season 3 that episode is, where they go into the reserve because of wild horses or something. And again with Victor Whitetail, and of course he never lived on the reserve, but he does what Amy does, kind of, gentle horses and stuff, but he has his own way of doing it, his own method based on the ways that he was trained in his culture. Again, I wish I could have gone deeper into this, but I just didn't. I had it planned, but I just didn't have enough information to go all the way out. So, that's going to be much of this video. Be sure to stay tuned for the next 2 videos, which are Friday and Saturday. Couple Clash videos, bringing that back because I haven't done that in a long time. And be sure to hit the notification bell, subscribe, and give this video a like. I did that the completely wrong order, but whatever. And I'll see you tomorrow.